Strangers beneath the iron sky, the city of Arcos loomed like a broken machine gray, rusted, and choked by dust. It was the kind of place where people disappeared, either by choice or by someone else's will. For Jace, it was just another layover. In his wandering life, a place to refuel, trade what little he had, and disappear again. He wasn't a hero, just a former mechanic with a bad past and a ship no one else wanted, but everything changed that night. When he took the alley shortcut, the streets behind the east wall were darker than the rest, quieter too. No lights, no voices, only the sound of wind scraping metal. That's where he saw them, two small figures curled against the exhaust vent of a ruined cargo hauler. They were motionless, trembling, barefoot, their skin paper-thin beneath layers of soot. At first he thought they were just street kids. Arcos was full of them. Then one of them looked up and her eyes shimmered silver. Not human. Jace stepped closer. The older one flinched, pulling the smaller girl behind her. Her limbs were gaunt, her cheeks sunken, but her stare was fierce, protective. He raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." No response. He reached into his coat and pulled out a ration bar, half-melted, barely food. He placed it gently on the ground between them. "Eat, you look like you haven't in days." They didn't move at first. Then the younger ones, smaller, with soft copper-toned skin and tangled hair, crawled forward and grabbed the bar, retreating quickly. She split it in half and gave the larger piece to the older girl. That was the moment Jace knew they weren't just survivors, they were sisters. He sat nearby, silent. The air stank of oil and mold. He didn't speak again, didn't move, just waited. Eventually, the older girl whispered something in a language the translator on his wrist couldn't recognize, but the way she said it, it didn't feel like a threat. He nodded slowly. "Name's Jace." The younger one tilted her head. "Sira," she said softly. The older one waited, then said, "Riva." "Nice to meet you both," Jace replied. "You have somewhere to stay." Silence. That was answer enough. "Come with me," he said. "I've got a warm place. Not much, but it's better than this." Riva didn't trust him, he could feel it. She stood slowly, shielding Sarah with her body. Her legs wobbled, but they followed him. Jace's ship, the Half-Light, was hidden in a junkyard under a collapsed tower. He'd rigged the systems to run quietly. The inside wasn't much paneling, patchy wiring, but it was warm. Safe. He gave them blankets, water, and more food. They devoured it in silence, never thanking him, never asking why. He didn't need thanks. That night, he sat in the cockpit, watching the city lights flicker through cracked windows. Behind him, the two girls finally slept cold like animals, who didn't know comfort could exist. He thought of walking away, thought of dropping them off at the next station. But something stopped him. Maybe it was their eyes. Maybe it was the way Riva always held Sira, like the world was out to take her. Or maybe it was the way no one had ever looked at him like he mattered before. He leaned back in the seat and stared at the stars. Whatever they were running from, it wasn't over. And for the first time in years, Jace decided not to run from it either. The hunger beneath their eyes. The next morning, the Half-Light hummed quietly as Jace ran diagnostics on the stabilizer core. The ship always had issues. It was old, stitched together from a dozen other vessels, and flew only because Jace knew how to keep dying things alive. But that morning, his focus wasn't on machinery. It was on the two girls sleeping behind the engine bulkhead. They were still curled together, Sira tucked against Riva's chest like a fading ember, holding on to warmth. Their faces were peaceful now, but Jace had seen that look before on soldiers in escape pods, on kids rescued from collapsed domes. It was the face of those two, tired to believe safety was real. He stepped into the galley and heated some nutrient broth. It wasn't much, but it was hot, and it smelled like something edible. The girls stirred at the scent. Sarah sat up first, rubbing her eyes, her hair stuck to her face in tangled strands. She looked at Jace with cautious interest. He offered the bowl, still hungry. Sira glanced at Riva. The older girl nodded once. She took the bowl with trembling hands and began to eat. Riva joined her moments later, slower, more guarded. She ate like someone who'd been taught not to trust kindness bite by bite, never taking her eyes off him. Jace leaned against the wall. "You two always been on Arcos?" Riva said nothing. "Runaways," he guessed. "From the colonies, a lab." Still nothing. Jace didn't push. He just sighed. "I don't need to know, but someone out there might be looking for you. You've got that hunted look." Sira looked up. "We didn't steal." Jace shook his head. "Didn't say you did." Riva spoke then, low but certain. "They want us because of what we carry." "What's that?" he asked. Instead of answering, she reached into the folds of her dirty tunic and pulled out a small, black pendant. It shimmered faintly in the dim light of the ship. The shape was unlike anything Jace had seen, neither crystal nor metal, and yet both Old tech? He asked. Reva shook her head. Older than tech. Ciro added. It sings sometimes. Jace raised a brow. Sings? Not with sound, Reva said, with memory. He didn't understand, but the way they said it, like it was sacred, like it was dangerous, it sent a shiver down his spine. Before he could ask more, the ship's console beeped. A proximity alert. He walked to the cockpit and scanned the feed. A drone, small, fast, silent, civilian class, but heavily It was circling the junkyard. Someone was searching. He killed the lights and ducked below the view screen. We've got company. Reva stood immediately, the pendant still in her hand. They found us, she said. Who's they? Jace demanded. Reva didn't answer. She turned to Ciro. Get the bag. The girl ran into the back compartment. Jace felt his pulse rising. You two planning to run again? You won't make it far. Reva stared at him. We always knew this wouldn't last. But thank you for the food. Jace stepped forward, voice firm. I'm not letting you get snatched off this rock. I don't know what your story is, but I've seen kids vanish into chains and not come back. We're not kids, Reva said softly. We're the last of something they tried to erase. She held up the pendant. It was glowing now, softly pulsing. They'll come with weapons. They'll come in silence, and they won't stop. Ciro returned with the bag. It was small, worn, but heavier than it looked. The drone outside drew closer. Jace made a decision. You're not running. You're staying on this ship, and I'm getting us out of here. He ran to the pilot's seat and punched in startup. Commands. The half-light growled in protest, but came alive. Reva stepped into the cockpit. You don't know what you're risking. Jace glanced back at her. I'm already risking it. Might as well fly full throttle. The drone outside lit up, signaling others. More were coming. The junkyard gates opened with a metallic shriek. Jace didn't wait. He punched the engines and tore through the makeshift canopy of scrap metal. The ship burst into the city sky, screaming, dust and debris blasting in every direction. Behind them, pursuit drones launched. Sarah clung to Reva. Reva held the pendant tighter. They'll track it. I know, Jace muttered. I'm taking us off planet. You won't make orbit, Reva warned. Not without. She trailed off. Without what? She looked at the pendant. Without this, unlocking the path. Jace blinked. Come again. The ship jolted as a drone fired, hitting the tail with a glancing shot. Systems flickered. We don't need a path, he growled. We need a miracle. Reva stared at him, then at the stars above. Maybe they're the same thing. She pressed the pendant against the nav panel. The ship reacted instantly. Lights blinked. Symbols appeared across the screen, glyphs he'd never seen before. A map unfolded. A route drawn not in coordinates, but in pulse signatures. Jace watched in awe. Is this? It's a path only our kind can open, Reva said. But we need you to fly it. He swallowed hard. Then hang on. As the drones closed in, the half-light turned sharply and shot upward, engines flaring with everything Jace could give. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and barely holding together. But somehow, for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He had passengers. He had a purpose. And the galaxy. It was about to remember the name of a man who gave two starving alien girls a chance to live. Shadows that speak of fire. The harmonizer hung in mid-air like a sleeping god, silent, flawless, and impossibly old. Its outer rings rotated slowly, casting glints of golden light across the black stone floor. Symbols shifted as they spun, responding to something unseen. Jace stepped closer, feeling the pull of it. It wasn't gravity. It was memory. His memory. Images flashed in his mind. His father's hands repairing engines. The empty barracks after his last deployment. The quiet ache he'd carried since leaving Earth behind. This thing's reading me, he muttered. Reva stood beside him, her gaze distant. It reads everyone. It searches for connection. Ciro clutched Reva's arm, her violet eyes locked on the massive columns. Something's moving. Jace turned sharply. The shadows around the chamber lengthened, thickening unnaturally. A deep hum rolled through the walls, like thunder buried in stone. The vault was responding. From the far end of the chamber, a figure stepped out of the darkness, tall, lean, wrapped in armor that shimmered like oil and void. Its face was hidden behind a mask carved with ancient runes. Visitor acknowledged, it said, voice metallic and smooth. Bloodline presence detected. Anchor identified. Purpose unclear. Jace instinctively stepped in front of the girls. Who the hell are you? The figure tilted its head. I am the Sentinel, guardian of the harmonizer. I was last activated 9,000 rotations ago, during the last emergence of the flame. Reva's breath caught. That was before the purge. The Sentinel's head turned toward her. You carry royal resonance. A diluted strand, but intact, Jace whispered. So this thing is a judge. Not judge, the sentinel replied. Interpreter, this vault cannot be claimed by force, only by will, purpose, bond. Suddenly, the harmonizer fled to life. A beam of light shot down from its center, encasing Jace in a cylinder of golden energy. His body stiffened, but it wasn't pain, it was clarity. Memories rushed through him, not just his own, but others. Ancient ones. Children laughing in crystal halls, a woman Riva and Sira's mother speaking to a gathered council. We must not use it as a weapon, she said. We must teach the galaxy to feel, then fire. Screams. Warships, raining down from the sky. The harmonizer had been buried after that, hidden, because peace was more dangerous than conquest. The vision ended, and Jace stumbled backward, breathing hard. What did it show you? Riva asked. Everything, Jace said. Everything you lost. Everything they tried to protect. The sentinel's voice returned. Do you wish to claim the bond? Jace looked at Riva, then Sira, then back at the machine. I don't want power, I just don't want anyone else to die for trying to build something better. The vault fell silent, then the sentinel lowered its head, accepted. The rings of the harmonizer shifted. Symbols aligned. A new beam of light emerged, shooting upward through the vault's ceiling and into the sky. Riva whispered, It's broadcasting. Jace turned toward her. What kind of broadcast? She stared at the light in wonder. A call, a message. To those who still carry the blood. To those who remember peace. Suddenly the walls trembled. An explosion echoed above. The ground shook, and dust rained from the ceiling. Jace ran to the edge of the platform. That wasn't part of the machine. Riva turned pale. They followed us. Outside, dozens of black-armored dropships began to descend from the clouds. Mercenary guilds, bounty syndicates, and others unmarked, silent, watching. Word of the harmonizer had spread faster than they expected. Back in the cockpit of the half-light, warning lights flickered. Sensors picked up movement too many to count. Inside the vault, the sentinel raised its arms. Defensive protocols engaged. Hostile presence within atmospheric perimeter. Sira hid behind her sister. We can't fight them all. Jace turned to Riva. Can the harmonizer protect itself? No, she said. It's not built for war. It's built to connect. Jace's mind raced. Then we need something that is. He ran back to the control pedestal. Sentinel R, their other guardians. The masked figure responded. To remain dormant. One below, one off-world. Wake the one here, Jace said. We need help. Command must come from the bloodline, the sentinel replied. Riva stepped forward and touched the pedestal. Her hand glowed the same golden hue as the harmonizer. Deep rumble echoed beneath them. From the floor, a massive circle split open. A platform rose slow, ancient, trembling with raw energy. On it stood a construct even larger than the sentinel half-machine. Half-living armor etched with scripts that burned with fire. Sira gasped. What is that? Riva whispered. The Flame Warden, the last of the royal shield. The Guardian opened its eyes molten gold. Then it spoke, not in sound, but in thought. Jace felt its presence in his bones. I serve the flame. I protect the bond. I burn those who threaten peace. Outside, the first drop pods hit the cliffs. Blaster fire lit the sky. The battle had begun, but this time, the sisters were not alone. Coordinates written in light. The half-light tore through Arco's upper atmosphere, its aging hull rattling under the strain. Jace gritted his teeth, forcing the ship through the gravity swell with a death grip on the controls. The navigation panel was no longer reading standard star charts. Instead, it showed shimmering lines like veins of light across a living map projected directly from the pendant Riva had placed against the console. What is this route? He shouted over the engine noise. Riva, still gripping the console, with one hand, replied without looking away. It's not a place, it's a memory. Our ancestors encoded it into the pendant. A path only the last of our kind can awaken. Sarah peeked out from behind a storage crate, her eyes wide with awe and fear. Are we going home? Riva hesitated. We're going somewhere forgotten. Behind them, the city of Arco shrank. Into haze, drones fell back, jammed by pulses of interference now emitted from the pendant. It was shielding them, buying them time. Jace flicked switches and rerouted power from the rear thrusters to the life support core. We'll need to make a gravity slingshot around the helix belt if we want to survive this trajectory. The map on the screen flickered, then shifted. It anticipated his thought. I didn't touch anything, he muttered. The map is alive, Riva said softly. It reads intent, not input. Jace had no words for that. The ship reached escape velocity, punching into open space. The stars seemed to bend around them as the pendant pulsed brighter. On the display, a single blinking point drew closer. A system not on any of Jace's star maps. Reva pointed. There, Jace narrowed his eyes. That sector was zoned, wiped during the siege years ago. That's what they wanted you to believe, Reva said. But something survived. As they passed into the coordinates, something changed. The stars around them warped. The lights dimmed. The ship's systems flickered. Jace's instruments shut off for half a second, then rebooted with new glyphs. Alien code scrolled across the monitors, symbols Jace didn't understand but somehow felt. Then the pendant glowed violently, and the cockpit filled with sound, noise, but music, a deep, resonant hum. It wasn't coming from the ship, it was coming from the space around them. Sarah gasped. It's singing again. Jace stared at the star map. That planet, it's there. Dead center. A dark world emerged from the shadows, a black and grey orb with veins of gold light crawling across its crust like molten language. Above it hung a massive ring, broken, but still rotating slowly. Debris floated around it like morning stars. That's not a planet, Jace said. It's a vault. Reva nodded. Our ancestors hid something here. Something they died to protect. Jace slowed the ship and angled for approach. As they neared orbit, the pendant shifted in Reva's hand, floating upward like it wanted to leave her. It pressed against the front glass of the cockpit, pulsing with heat. Then the clouds over the dark world parted and revealed a massive structure embedded into the surface. A circular door, hundreds of meters wide, ringed with ancient spires like fingers pointing at the stars. The pendant emitted a beam of golden light that hit the planet. Suddenly, the circular door began to move. Sarah pressed her face to the glass. It's opening. Reva looked at Jaceland there. The vault is awake now. It knows we've come. He guided the half-light down cautiously. The wind screamed as they passed through a thick band of golden mist. Lightning crackled inside it, but none struck the ship. Instead, the clouds curved around them like a protective shield. They landed on a flat platform just outside the now open vault door. The moment the landing gear touched down, the ground pulsed beneath them. Alive. Reva stepped off the ramp first. Her boots met the surface with a soft echo. Sarah followed, hesitant but clinging to her sister's hand. Jace stood at the top of the ramp, scanning the surroundings with narrowed eyes. Every instinct in his body screamed that they weren't alone. The vault walls shimmered with moving light like shadows that had learned how to breathe. Ahead, the passage opened into darkness. No torches, no electricity, but the pendant shone brightly, guiding them. As they entered, the temperature dropped, and Jace saw things he couldn't explain. Carvings in the wall that shifted when he blinked. Symbols that whispered thoughts he hadn't spoken in years. Memories that weren't his. This place, it remembers everything, he murmured. Reva touched one wall, and the entire chamber lit up. A long corridor revealed itself, leading into a vast room lined with tall columns, each one holding a glowing orb. Above them floated a central metallic device shaped like a star's core. It rotated silently in mid-air, surrounded by rings etched with unbroken writing. Jace took a step forward, breath shallow. What is that? Reva approached the structure. That can unite species through memory, empathy, understanding. Jace looked around, stunned. This could end wars. That was the plan, Reva said. But those in power feared peace more than they feared destruction. So they destroyed our people instead. Sarah stood at the edge of the platform. But not all of them. No, Reva whispered, turning to Jace. Some of us survived, and one human cared enough to feed us when we had nothing left. He shook his head. I just gave you food. No, she said, stepping closer. You listened. You stayed. And now you're part of this. The vault pulsed again, and above them, something stirred. The battle for the bond. The cliffs outside the vault burned. Dozens of sleek black dropships pierced through the heavy skies, raining mercenary strike squads across the frozen ridges. The mountain's edge echoed with the sharp clatter of boots and the rising pitch of anti-grav engines. All of them had come for one thing. What lay inside the ancient vault. And they thought they would find only children. Inside, Jace watched the external sensors light up one after another. We've got at least 8 teams surrounding us. More heavy weapons. Pulse gear, EMP lances. They want the harmonizer, Reva said, tightening her grip on the pendant now glowing against her chest. No, Jace said grimly. They want you. Sarah flinched, clutching her sister's hand. They'll take us like before. Not this time, Jace said, stepping between them and the door. Not while I'm breathing. A blast shook the outer gate. Part of the vault ceiling cracked, raining dust. The ancient structure groaned in defiance but held. The first wave was close. The flame warden stood perfectly still on the platform, its glowing eyes fixed on the entrance like a lion waiting for its cage to open. Its arms, etched in swirling fire metal, hummed with contained fury. It had waited eons to be summoned again. Now it stood not for a kingdom but for two orphaned souls. Jace turned to Reva. Can you control it? She shook her head. Not control, just direct. He pointed toward the door. Then direct it. Reva walked slowly to the base of the construct, her small hand rising, the pendant in her palm pulsing like a heartbeat. Guardian of flame, she whispered. Protect what remains of our kind. Not for war but for peace. The Guardian didn't speak. It didn't need to. It moved. The entire vault trembled as the Flame Warden stepped down, one massive foot slamming onto the ground. Its body shimmered with light drawn from beneath the planet's crust. As it passed the harmonizer, the rings of the machine paused for just a breath, recognizing the ancient protector, and then resumed their slow, infinite spin. Outside, the attackers breached the vault's entrance. Flashbangs rolled across the ground. Pulse rifles swept the halls. One by one, they entered the sacred chamber and saw the Warden. The first soldier opened fire. The vault exploded in golden light. The Warden raised its arm, and the entire blast wave reversed, pulling the bolt back mid-air and folding it into dust. The soldiers froze, then scattered. Retreat. Heavy. Class construct code unknown. The Guardian moved like a storm, precise and unstoppable. Its massive hands swung with controlled violence, its eyes searing trails into the air as it cleared the front hall. Mercenaries screamed. Weapons failed. Shields collapsed, but more kept coming. Jace dragged the sisters to the far end of the vault. There's too many. The Warden can't hold them forever. Reva turned. Then we don't hold them, we finish the harmonizer. He looked at her, shocked. What does that even mean? She held the pendant up. This key wasn't meant to escape, it was meant to awaken. Suddenly, the harmonizer responded to her voice. The rings spun faster. The floor beneath them split open, revealing a deep chamber of living crystal. Light bled through the cracks like stars caught in a cage. Syrah gasped. It's opening. Reva dropped to her knees in front of the control pedestal. This device doesn't just project memory. It can transmit it across species, systems, minds. We can show them everything, the truth, the betrayal, the price of forgetting. But how? Jace asked. Reva looked at him, her eyes glowing now. With you, but you're the anchor. You were never meant to be a fighter. You were meant to be a mirror, a carrier of what they fear most, which is compassion, she said softly. The one thing they cannot erase. Jace stepped forward slowly. The harmonizer's light wrapped around him like fog. Behind them, the battle raged. The Warden now fought in the central chamber, but more ships were landing. One exploded, launching debris across the mountains. From one of the dropships, a figure emerged, a woman in dark red armor with a blade strapped across her back. Her eyes scanned the battlefield with cold calculation. Reva turned and whispered, Kira, who? Jace asked. A warlord, Reva said, her voice tight. She once served our ancestors, then sold us to the highest bidder when the purge began. Kira stepped into the vault, untouched by the fire. Her soldiers flanked, her disciplined, silent. She didn't even glance at the Guardian. Stand down, she said. Your pet won't save you. Jace raised his rifle. Back away, Kira smirked. I remember you. You were the pilot who smuggled off-world medicine for slave camps. Always a soft heart. Jace narrowed his eyes. Soft doesn't mean stupid. No, she said, drawing her blade. But it always bleeds first. Reva stepped forward. We activated the harmonizer. You're too late. Kira's face twitched. No one is too late for a weapon like this. It's not a weapon, Reva said. Kira didn't respond. She lunged. JACE fired. The vault echoed with chaos, but at the center of it all, the harmonizer began to sing, not with sound, but with memory. A sphere of light encased Jace, and through him, it projected what he carried, every moment of kindness, every choice to protect instead of destroy. Kira staggered. Her soldiers froze, and for a breathless moment, everyone saw what he saw. Starving alien girls in an alley, trembling under the weight of a dying world, and one human who decided not to walk away. The harmonizer surged, its rings locked into place. A pulse of golden light spread across the vault, and beyond, up into the sky, through the clouds, into orbit. It reached ships, satellites, listening posts, and mines. It told a story not of war but of family, of survival, of choosing love in a galaxy built on fear. Outside, the attackers stopped firing. Inside, the light faded. Jace collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Reva caught him. You did it. No, he said, breathing heavily. We did. The warden stepped forward again, its chest plate opening to reveal a small glowing crystal dot. It placed it gently at Reva's feet. "The flame is past," it said, "to the chosen, to the kind," and then it bowed. The light that couldn't be tell the harmonizer's pulse had spread like fire through dry leaves unseen by the eye, but undeniable in its reach. Across distant satellites, derelict listening posts, and even outlawed relay buoys left adrift. In deep space, the broadcast echoed. It was not a signal of command or surrender. It was emotion, memory, truth. In orbit above the planet. Ships from rival factions each racing to plunder the vault froze in eerie silence as the harmonizer message washed through their systems. Their crews stood still, staring at visions not their own. Of the two starving sisters, of the human who gave warmth before questions, of shared meals in silence, of fear turning to laughter. Inside the vault, the silence after the burst was deafening. Still knelt on the floor, the last of the harmonizer's light fading from his skin. His breath came in shallow gasps. His hands trembled. Reva knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. He gave them a new story, one they'll remember. He managed a weak smile. "Hope it's enough." Sura crept toward them, her small hands wrapped tightly around the crystal left by the flame warden. "This is ours now." "No," Reva whispered. "It's everyone's, but we carry it." The warden remained kneeling, dormant once more. Its purpose fulfilled. Its massive frame glowed faintly like coals after a blaze. Kira, the warlord in crimson armor, lay crumpled nearby, her weapon shattered, her body paralyzed not by force, but by something far worse, empathy. Her eyes were open, wet with tears, staring at the vaulted ceiling where projections of ancient families still lingered like ghosts made of light. She whispered hoarsely, "I remember, my sister." Before the wars, Jace looked at her, not with hatred but pity. "It's not too late." "No," Kira replied, voice brittle, "but it's too late for me." She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, did not reach for a weapon. Above them, the harmonizer's rings finally slowed, resting into a new pattern, 3 rings overlapping like a family crest. The chamber dimmed, the echoes of history folding inward like the end of a dream. Sira looked up. "Is it over?" Jace stood slowly. "No, this is just the first spark." Outside the vault, ships began to land, not with weapons drawn, but with crews stepping out quietly, blinking at the strange warmth in the air. Captains of enemy syndicates stared at one another, no longer sure why they had come. The message had done its work. Some dropped their weapons, others looked toward the sky. The harmonizer had changed something fundamental, and the galaxis, long fractured by greed, tribalism, and conquest, had finally been shown what they were all capable of losing, a future. Reva walked to the center of the vault and activated the pedestal one final time. The floor shifted beneath their feet, forming a new platform, this one smooth, silver, and warm. "It's called the Hearthstone," she said. "It's where the old councils once met, where the broken came to speak." Jace tilted his head. "You're saying we're rebuilding?" She nodded. "Not kingdoms, not empires, a community." The flame crystal hovered over the Hearthstone, drawn to it like a lost child finding home. It embedded itself into the center, and light spread out like a growing tree, reaching every crack and crevice of the vault. Columns lit up, rooms awakened, corridors long hidden came alive with pale luminescence. And then they heard it, footsteps. From one of the lit corridors, a small group emerged. Pale, gaunt figures, aliens with sunken eyes and patched clothing, children clutching metal scraps, adults leaning on canes or old blasters. "Survivors." Zero gasped. Others, Reva's eyes welled with tears. They followed the broadcast. The survivors entered the chamber like ghosts, blinking against the warmth, the light, the hope. Some fell to their knees, others wept openly. Jace stepped forward and raised his voice. "No more running, no more starving. You're safe now." The group crowded around the Hearthstone, and for the first time in years, possibly lifetimes, they believed it. More ships landed, not invaders this time, but those drawn by something deeper than greed. From refugee convoys to isolated stations, where stories of the harmonizer's rebirth had already taken root, the vault became a beacon, not a fortress, but a sanctuary. The vault, once sealed by fear, now breathed with life. In the following days, makeshift shelters were built across the platform outside. Food was shared, languages were translated, songs were sung, old and new. Reva organized what she called light circles, small gatherings where each person would speak of something they lost, and something they still carried. Sarah began teaching the children how to draw light trails in the air, using leftover harmonizer fragments. Her laughter finally uninhibited. and JC became something he never imagined, a symbol. Not a leader, by decree, but by choice. The one who reminded them all that you don't need power to be strong, just kindness, and the courage to offer warmth to the forgotten. One night, Reva found him staring up at the stars, his coat draped over his shoulders, a fire crackling beside him. She sat next to him. You thinking of leaving? He nodded. But then, I remembered, where would I go that matters more than this? She smiled. Then stay. He looked over at the camp, the flickering fires, the whispered songs, the sisters who had once been starving and now ran barefoot through the light, trails of their ancestors, and he said, yeah, I'll stay. A place to call home. The fire cracked softly in the cold night air. Jace sat at the edge of the mountain ledge, the wind brushing against his face like a memory. Below, the once frozen valley now shimmered with scattered campfires and warm lights, tents, flickering heaters, and laughter, of all things, a sound that hadn't touched this place in 1,000 years. He closed his eyes, listening. Children giggled, chasing each other through glowing trails of harmonizer dust. Old soldiers, aliens, and exiles from forgotten wars sat together, sharing food and stories. It wasn't perfect. It was barely organized, but it was alive. Behind him, the harmonizer stood still, its rings now golden and calm. No longer a weapon, no longer feared, just a memory keeper, a lighthouse. Footsteps approached quietly. Reva sat beside him, wrapped in a woven shawl made by one of the new arrivals. Her hands were stained from repairs wires, tech, inked. Her eyes looked softer now, but deeper. You were right, she said. We didn't need an army. Jace looked out at the stars. Just a reason to stop running. Sarah ran up with a piece of metal in her hand. Look what I made. It was a badge, shaped, but glowing with harmonizer filament. On it were 3 symbols, a flame, a hand, and 2 stars. Reva took it gently. What does it mean? Sarah grinned. It means we belong now. Jace smiled, swallowing the emotion in his throat. You do. You always did. Down in the valley, new ships continued to arrive. Small, unmarked transports, cargo haulers turned into homes, scavenger crews bringing supplies instead of taking. Word had spread fast through the fringe systems. There's a place that takes anyone, no questions, no credits, just come. Even some of the mercenaries who once sought to loot the vault returned without weapons this time, just with open hands and tired eyes. Jace met them himself. He looked into each face. Some he recognized. Some had been there that first night when they stormed the cliffs. But none of them were the same anymore. The harmonizer had shown them too. Much you sure you want to be here? Jace asked them. A grizzled alien with cybernetic eyes answered. There's nowhere else we can sleep without a rifle on our chest. You gave us something better than fear. Jace nodded. Then you're welcome. The community began to organize itself, not with rules, but with needs. Reva built a workshop with the help of some engineers, half Terran, half Elisi. They repaired, scavenged tech, filtered water, even restored part of the harmonizer's original. Archive. Sierra and the children created a light garden, a crystal field grown from harmonizer seeds where children could play, and memories would sprout as dancing lights from the soil. Jace. He fixed things. Not machines, not structures, but people. He sat with the broken, listened to the angry, cooked food for those who didn't speak. He taught them to care again, even when the galaxy had taught them to kill. One night, a transport came bearing only one person, a woman in a cloak. Her hair was white, her skin bore the marks of old wounds. She had no weapons, no demands, just a datapad with a story on it. Reva met her first. You were a princess once, the woman said. Was a refugee before that, Reva replied. I was a hunter, the woman whispered. Now I just want to sleep without ghosts. Jace later learned the woman was once a commander of the Order of Silencer, syndicate that erased entire bloodlines. She surrendered herself willingly, offering her knowledge to help heal others. No council judged her, only the fire and weather. She could warm herself beside it, and she did. As the settlement grew, it earned a name not official, not in any records, but spoken in every corner of the outposts and hidden frequencies of fringe space. The hearth, the place where fire was shared, where no one went hungry. Where even enemies became neighbors. If they could sit and speak without drawing blood. Years passed, but no one measured time by calendars anymore. They measured it by stories. The day the harmonizer lit the sky, the time a little girl fed a broken scavenger her last ration bar, mourning the warlord who once conquered 3 moons, washed dishes after breakfast with a child who didn't know her past. One evening, after helping build a new shelter on the east cliff, Jace stood beside Reva. watching the twin moons rise. "They'll come for us again," he said quietly. "Real powers, governments, empires." Reva nodded. "Yes, but not like before." "Why not?" She took his hand. "Because this time, we're not alone." And she was right. The hearth had inspired others. Dozens of outposts, once forgotten, had begun forming similar havens, broadcasting fragments of the harmonizer's light. Not all succeeded. Some were crushed, but enough survived, enough to matter, a network of compassion in a galaxy made of scars. And it all began because one human knelt in an alley beside two starving alien girls, and offered warmth before judgment. That was the real weapon the harmonizer revealed. Humanity, not just as a species but as a choice.